My hands were shaking as I opened the door outside. 3 police cars, an animal control van, and a CPS worker stood there, representing my worst nightmare. The lead officer's words felt like ice picks to my heart. "Ma'am, we've received reports of child neglect, child endangerment, and a dangerous animal attack." Behind me, my entire world, my daughter, Emma, was curled in a corner of the living room, buried under her weighted blanket, noise-canceling headphones blocking everything out. Buddy, her loyal golden shadow, was pressed against her, guarding, his body still humming with adrenaline. And in her driveway, Karen stood, phone held high, live streaming to her Facebook group, a look of self-righteous satisfaction on her face. "I have cameras," I said immediately, my voice steadier than I expected. "I installed cameras because of previous issues. Everything is recorded." That got everyone's attention. The lead officer, his name tag said, Officer Miller, raised an eyebrow. "You have footage of the incident?" "Yes," I said, pointing to the discreet device under the eave. "Front and backyards? The angles are good." Our group, Officer Miller, the CPS worker, a stern-faced woman named Miss Williams, and the animal control officer, moved into the shade of the porch. Karen craned her neck to see, but was politely held back by another officer at my property line. I pulled out my phone, opened the security app, my fingers fumbling. Finding the right file felt like an eternity. Then, we watched. The high-definition video told the story without sound. There was Emma, her small form peaceful in the morning light, arranging her colored toys, creating her silent rainbows. Buddy sat beside her like a golden statue. Then, Karen appeared. The footage clearly showed her climbing the fence that separated our yards, not coming through the gate. She held her phone up like a weapon. We saw Emma's body go rigid, her carefully arranged patterns disrupted by the intruder's shadow. We saw Buddy move, not to attack, but to position himself, letting out 3 short, sharp alert barks before placing his body between Emma and Karen. We saw Emma melt down, her hands hitting her own head, pulling her hair, a portrait of agony no parent should ever see. We saw myself rush into the frame, face frantic, scooping Emma up, her little legs kicking in the air. We heard me yell, "Get out of my yard!" and Karen scream in response, "It is attacking me, rabid dog!" Even though the footage clearly showed Buddy hadn't even bared his teeth, his entire focus on his distressed little girl. Finally, we watched Karen back away, still filming, then climb back over the fence. The playback ended, silence on the porch. The only sound was Karen's muffled, excited whispering into her phone mic in the distance. "They're reviewing the evidence now." Officer Miller let out a long breath and turned to Miss Williams and the animal control officer. The animal control officer, a man named Carter, had already closed his clipboard. "Clearly no attack behavior," Carter said flatly. "The dog displayed trained intervention, pretty standard service dog protocol. Actually no grounds for further action." Miss Williams nodded, her gaze shifting from my phone to the house, where Emma and Buddy were. "Based on this footage, Miss Karen was the trespasser, and the one who precipitated the incident. I see no indication of neglect or danger. On the contrary," she added, a hint of warmth entering her voice, "the dog is clearly a vital communication tool and safety measure. I will not be opening an investigation." I felt my knees go weak, a wave of relief so strong it almost drowned me. It was then that Karen could no longer contain herself. "What are you doing?" she shrilled, marching across the lawn boundary until Officer Miller held up a hand to stop her. "Didn't you see? That child is in danger. That dog?" "Ma'am," Officer Miller cut her off, his voice like cold steel. "Based on the footage we just reviewed, you trespass, caused significant distress to a disabled child, and filed a false report. You are the one facing potential charges." Karen's face flushed red, then white, then a sickly gray. "Charges? Me? I was just a concerned citizen. I was documenting a dangerous situation." "You were documenting yourself committing a crime," Miss Williams added calmly, pulling out her own phone. "And I believe your social media live stream documented you interfering with an official investigation. That may have consequences." The next hour was a blur. The officer spoke with Karen in her driveway, her phone now held limply at her side. They took her statement, while I provided a copy of my footage. Eventually, the police left, leaving Karen standing alone in her driveway, looking shocked and furious. Miss Williams handed me her card before she left. "If she harasses you again, contact me directly. Emma is very lucky to have you, and Buddy." When the door finally closed, the silence in the house was profound. I leaned against it, closing my eyes, finally letting the tears I'd been holding back fall. The battle was over, for today at least. A few days later, a cease and desist letter drafted by a lawyer arrived at Karen's door, formally barring her from approaching our property or interacting with Emma and Buddy, and threatening legal action if she tried to contact CPS or make false complaints about Buddy again. Our neighborhood social media group, where Karen had been a vocal member, suddenly filled with messages of support for our family. Apparently, a few neighbors had seen the tail end of her live stream and were appalled by her behavior. The truth, like sunlight, had filtered in, but the real change came the following Tuesday morning. As usual, at 7 a.m., Emma and Buddy went into the backyard for rainbow time. I watched from the kitchen window, a thread of lingering tension still inside me. Buddy sat as always, watchful and calm. Emma began arranging her blue blocks. Then I saw movement next door. Karen's back door opened. My heart jumped, but she didn't approach the fence. She just stood there, watching. After a moment, she went back inside and emerged a few minutes later holding a small object. She walked to the fence line, but didn't cross it. She placed a small gift-wrapped package, a bright, sunny yellow, Emma's favorite color, on the post of our fence. Then, without a word, she turned and went back inside her house. Emma didn't look up, lost in her world, but Buddy moved. He lifted his head, sniffed the air, then looked toward my window, giving a single soft wag of his tail, an all is well signal. I retrieved the package that evening. Inside was a beautiful sun-yellow stress ball, soft and squishy. No note, none were needed. Life settled into a new, quieter rhythm. Karen never spoke to us directly again, but the hateful glares stopped. Sometimes, we'd see her watching Buddy with Emma in the yard, the expression on her face not angry, but something thoughtful. Perhaps the beginning of understanding. Last night, I was putting Emma to bed. She was curled up, Buddy, on the floor beside her bed as usual. I read her a story, her breathing becoming steady and deep. As I moved to leave, she did something unusual. She reached out, not to me, but to Buddy. She placed her small hand on his furry head and left it there for a moment. Then she looked up at me, and in the dim glow of the nightlight, the corners of her mouth turned up just a little. Not a full smile, but definitely an attempt at one, an expression of peace, of contentment. In that moment, without any words, I understood everything. We hadn't fought just to be tolerated. We had fought for this small, authentic moment of connection, for her right to a patch of peace in a world not built for her. Buddy wasn't just her voice, he was her bridge, and we had, finally, safely crossed to the other side. I closed the door, leaving the two of them together, a girl who didn't need words to be fully understood, and a dog who made sure she always was. Out in our yard, under the quiet, star-dusted sky, everything was settled into a perfect